Hey, Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are.
Good morning, beautiful people. Today's subject, we want to talk about, will the narcissist come back? Do we really want the narcissist to come back? Look, guys, I know everybody's hurting. I know this is something that's not of the norm in the healing from a normal breakup. I get that. But the one thing I think that you need to look at to answer your own question about whether the narcissist is going to come back is, what is their past patterns? I know with my ex, he's used to women begging him back, going, oh, I made a mistake. And the reason that they do this with him is because he's such a good actor in the beginning, and he gives off this really kind and generous spirit about him. The problem is to unveil that takes a long time, because he's, I think that genuinely is who he is, except for the inner workings of him. Like, that is the person he is. He is generous. He is kind. He's fun to be with. He's fun to go out and do stuff with. But when it comes to the everyday life stuff, he can't do it. He just can't do, they just can't do a relationship. They don't know, they don't have the skills to put into, feeding a relationship. I can tell you that my life with him was extremely just kind of like that home life. There was nothing ever crazy going on. There was nothing ever entertaining going on. So it got boring really quick for him, I'm sure, even though that's kind of what I was used to. I was used to taking care of the kids, taking care of the house, taking care of my business. And I know that there was just a breaking point for him where it just wasn't fun for him anymore. We did have a combined family. And I think when it got down to, once I started expecting him to step up, when my expectancy changed, in the beginning of a relationship, we're all about, let's have fun. Let's, just take it easy and enjoy each other. But once the responsibilities kind of came in, is when he couldn't, he didn't want to do it. He didn't want to help provide. He didn't want to help take care of the kids. He didn't want to help with dinner. He didn't essentially want to do anything. He didn't want to help clean. He didn't want, anything that had to do with the home, he didn't want anything to do about that. He was just very selfish. All the kids' events, I had to plan them. He never planned date night. I had to plan that. He just never would invest, is the right word. They just don't invest in their relationships. So anyway, they do Hoover. They do all that. So when you're talking about them leaving and will they come back, they're definitely watching you. So even though they're not physically there, and they're not physically knocking on your door and physically showing up at your work and physically doing all that, he's definitely checking your Facebook. He's checking all social media. I know that mine blocked me, and I kind of laugh about this today, because he blocked me and then he realized that because I was blocked that he couldn't see what I was doing on my Facebook. So then he unblocked me. So this was like a constant game that went back and forth. If you are in a relationship with a malignant narc or a psychopath or a sociopath, you need to let that go. Those are the most physically dangerous narcissists out there. They're the ones that abuse. They use and abuse. That's exactly what they do. And if you're in something like that, you need to somehow break that addiction off you, because that's what all these relationships are anyway. They're just an addiction. It's not love. So if you think that that narcissist loved you, or you think that you love them, technically neither one of you probably really loved each other or liked each other. I know that we have good hearts as empaths and codependents, but and we were genuinely all in and genuinely trying to make it all work. But there had to come a point inside of you where you realized that you didn't like them. And, you begin getting resentful. And during that resentful stage, you start to begin to hate them. So, and it's all going wrong, and you don't know what's going wrong. It's because that resentful part on you was because your needs weren't getting met. Their needs were getting met, but yours weren't. And then they're wondering why you're resentful. Well, because you're giving everything and not getting anything in the relationship. But I do think that they all come back in some way or another, whether it be every other month, whether it be every 6 months, whether it be 5 years, 15 years. Eventually they'll reach out. If they're on low supply, they reach out. So in my case, when he was working on a new supply, he would be ghosting me and ignoring me, and wouldn't text me, wouldn't call me. And then when that didn't work out, he would, usually it was me reaching out. I have to be honest. It was usually me just touching base every couple months. But, if I touched base and he wasn't with somebody, he would come back. So, that's the main thing. But I always knew there was somebody else. I know he thought that I didn't know, but I knew. So, even the very last time he came back, I knew. There were so many signs. I was like, why are you even here? You're going to just sit here and listen to me trying to make you accountable for actions he didn't want to take accountability for. Nor did he want to ever end that relationship. He would never just point blank and say, hey, this isn't working out, or we're done. There was never any closure, but I'll do a video on closure another day. Also with the patterns, again, it's going to be the same patterns in and out. But I think even if they do have a new supply or they get married, if they get bored or they're low on supply in those relationships, I do definitely think that they will reach out if you make yourself accessible. So if you're like on Facebook and they've unblocked you a couple years down the line, and you're on Facebook and you're just like, hey, and you open that door, they're going to walk through that door. I don't know if they reach out directly. I think some of the malignants and the psychopaths and the sociopaths, definitely, they're constantly going to be reaching out to you. But the covert narcissist, not so much. You're going to probably have to make that first move. But they're always going to want their other supply in you. So, if you're willing to go through that abuse and keep going through it over and over, keep taking them back, because it's not going to change. I can tell you that when mine came back all the time, I tried to change myself. As I said, our home life was very, there just wasn't anything to it. It was just a very calm home life. Until I would get mad, as long as I kept my mouth shut, everything was fine. But as soon as I was like, hey, why didn't you take the trash out? Or why aren't you helping me? Why aren't you contributing to the household? Why aren't you, as soon as I started getting on about these things that a normal man should want to do, definitely there was a backlash for that. So, every time he came back, I tried to be a little cheerleader for him. And I was like, yeah, I'll go to your games. I never did that the whole relationship. He should have known that was an act. I have no desire to go to watch soccer games, ever. I hated it. But I wanted to see if it would make a difference. And so I kind of did a little bit of, I tested him a lot while we were broken up, just to see different things. I'd been through this a couple times. My marriage was a 20-year marriage with a narcissist as well. And this was my rebound relationship, which told you I didn't heal from my first one. So definitely every time he came back, I reinvented myself. I tried to give him a different version of me. But in doing that, I have to be honest. Again, I was trying to do it for information. For 2 years after we broke up, all I did was research. I learned about codependency. I learned about narcissism. I learned about bad behavioral patterns. I did a lot of research. I did a lot of stuff with even biblical, just doing a lot of research on what God says about this kind of stuff. And, so I was already going through the healing process. I just wanted to know if things would change. And I have to say, you guys need to keep a journal. Keep a journal of all the things that they've done to you. I can go through bullet points of things that this person did and just took no accountability for it whatsoever. And just kind of scuffed it off like I was crazy. And I know I wasn't crazy. There was just so much. And, and I was trying to work through that because I loved that person. I didn't realize that, this person wasn't really loving me back. But they're really showing you who they are now. So remember that person in the beginning that was love bombing you, that's not who they are. That was them mirroring you. So who they are now is their true colors. I mean, so if you're dealing with somebody that's just very mean and malicious and evil and, or just doing evil things to you, they know you, love them. They know you care. And if they're just coming back to use and abuse you, that's just an evil person, but that's who they are now. I mean, that is who they are. That's why they got to constantly go through these new supply relationships, because they know they're evil. They know they're not good people. They know that they're not good to women. They know that they're not good to men. They know this. So what it's easier to go get a new supply than to fix themselves. So what they're going to do is keep getting new supply and start that love bombing stage all over with somebody else. Do they love them? No. Do they make it look good? Yes. But again, it's going to be the same pattern over and over. Eventually that new supply in a couple of years is going to realize, I'm not getting my needs met. They can't. They cannot do relationships. So, as I said, I know you're sitting there and you're hurting, and I get that. And I know that you're trying to figure out what to do and how to get them back, but let them go. Well, that's my food for thought today. And I want to leave you with one Bible verse, which is Psalms 37, 1. Do not be angry because of those who are evil. Do not be jealous because of those who do wrong. So don't be jealous that they're in this new life, with a new supply. They're not worth it. They're not worth your peace. And eventually you'll heal and you'll move on. But I understand that panic and anxiety, but that's just your addiction, and you need to work through that codependency addiction. Well, I hope this helped you out today, and we'll be back soon.